Picture this. A young basketball player walks into a boardroom in 1984. On one side sits the most dominant athletic company in the world. On the other, a struggling startup that's bleeding money. The handshake that happens next doesn't just create the most iconic athlete of all time, it rewrites the entire economics of sports forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a family feud between two German brothers created a war that changed what basketball players earn, what they wear, and how millions of fans around the world consume the sport. This isn't just about shoes, this is about how basketball became a billion-dollar global entertainment empire. Before we dive into the chaos, let's paint the picture of basketball in the early 1980s. For over 50 years, one company completely dominated basketball footwear: Converse. Those iconic Chuck Taylor All-Stars weren't just popular, they were practically the only game in town. NBA superstars like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, they wore basic team-issued shoes or simple Converse models. There was no such thing as signature basketball shoes. Players earned their salaries from playing basketball, period. The idea that an athlete could make more money from endorsements than their actual sport, that was pure fantasy. Basketball was still finding its identity as entertainment. Games weren't the global spectacles we know today. Players were athletes, not brands, and sneakers, they were just functional equipment. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, a bitter family rivalry was brewing that would eventually reshape American sports forever. After World War II, two German brothers, Adolf Adi Dassler and Rudolf Dassler, had a falling out so severe, they literally split their hometown in half. Adi founded Adidas on one side of the river in Herzogenaurach, Germany. Rudolf started Puma on the other. The hatred ran so deep that families wouldn't speak to each other and residents had to choose sides. Workers from Adidas wouldn't even drink at the same bars as Puma employees. But here's the thing. Both companies were focused on track and field and soccer. Basketball was this weird American sport that barely registered on their radar. Adidas had some presence in the US market, but they were playing it safe, offering standard contracts to a few players. Nothing revolutionary, nothing that would suggest they were about to accidentally trigger the biggest transformation in sports marketing in history. Let's talk about Nike in 1984. This wasn't the global powerhouse you know today. This was a struggling company founded just 13 years earlier by a former University of Oregon track coach and his business partner. They were hemorrhaging money in basketball. Converse owned about 90% of the market, Adidas had the rest. Nike was basically invisible. The company was so desperate, they were considering getting out of basketball entirely. They had maybe 5% market share, and their basketball division was on life support. But one man inside Nike had a crazy idea that would either save the company or finish it off completely. Sonny Vaccaro, Nike's basketball scout, made a proposal that sounded insane. Let's take our entire basketball marketing budget and bet it all on one player. Not 5 players, not a team, one single rookie who hadn't played a single NBA game. That rookie was Michael Jordan. And here's the plot twist. Jordan didn't even want to meet with Nike. He was an Adidas guy through and through. He wore Adidas in college at North Carolina. He loved the brand. He figured his professional career would naturally continue with the 3 stripes. Adidas made him an offer that seemed reasonable by 1984 standards. $500,000 over 5 years, plus free shoes and some apparel. For context, that was actually a decent deal back then. Most players got nothing beyond free equipment. But Nike made an offer that broke every rule in the book. $500,000 in salary for the first year alone, matching Adidas's entire 5-year offer. Stock options in Nike that would eventually be worth over $1.3 billion. His own signature shoe line with input on design. A percentage of every Air Jordan shoe sold. A $250,000 signing bonus just for showing up. This wasn't just a shoe deal. This was Nike essentially making Jordan a business partner. They were betting that this one player could single-handedly build their basketball division from nothing into something massive. The craziest part? Jordan almost said no anyway. He had to be convinced by his parents and agent to even take the meeting. Nike literally had to fly him to Oregon and show him exactly how they planned to build an entire brand around him before he finally agreed. April 1985, the Air Jordan 1 hits store shelves. Nike projected maybe $4 million in sales for the first year if they were lucky. What actually happened changed everything. First, the NBA did Nike the biggest favor in marketing history. They banned the shoe. The league claimed the black and red colorway violated their uniformity of uniform rule. Nike's response? Pure genius. They created an entire ad campaign around it. The NBA banned them from the game. Lucky for you, they can't ban you from wearing them. The controversy exploded. Suddenly, everyone wanted the shoes that were too rebellious for the NBA. Kids saw Jordan flying through the air in slow motion during those iconic commercials, and they didn't just want to play like Mike, they wanted to look like him too. Year 1 sales? $126 million. Not $4 million, $126 million. Nike had projected conservative success and accidentally created a cultural phenomenon. But here's what most people miss. The real impact wasn't just Nike's success. It was how this completely changed what it meant to be a professional athlete. Before Jordan, players were employees. After Jordan, players realized they were brands. Agents started demanding endorsement clauses in contracts. Players began thinking about their marketability, their image, their story beyond just their stats. Basketball transformed from a sport into entertainment mixed with fashion. Suddenly, what shoes you wore mattered. How you looked mattered. Your personality and style could be worth millions of dollars. Adidas watched their American market share crumble almost overnight. They had been the safe, established choice, but Nike had just proven that safe doesn't sell. Stories do. And Jordan's story was just beginning. Adidas wasn't going to go down without a fight, but they completely misread what Nike had actually accomplished. While Nike was building athlete brands, Adidas tried to compete on technical innovation and price. They made some smart cultural moves, signing Run DMC and crossing over into hip-hop culture with My Adidas. They focused on international markets where Nike was weak. They invested heavily in technical features and performance benefits. But they missed the fundamental shift. Nike wasn't selling shoes anymore, they were selling dreams, identity, and aspirational lifestyle. Adidas was still thinking like a traditional athletic company, while Nike had become an entertainment company that happened to make shoes. The closest Adidas came to matching Nike's strategy was in 2002, when they almost signed Kobe Bryant. Kobe was frustrated with his Nike deal and ready to jump ship. Adidas offered him everything: signature line, massive money, creative control. At the last minute, Nike matched the offer and kept him. That near miss still haunts Adidas executives today. Nike's response was to double down on their new formula. They didn't just sign Michael Jordan, they signed every transcendent basketball talent they could find. Magic Johnson got his own line. Larry Bird got his own line. Later, they'd lock up LeBron James with a lifetime deal worth over $1 billion. But the real genius was how they expanded beyond performance basketball. They created lifestyle basketball shoes, Jordans you could wear to school, to the mall, on a date. They made basketball footwear acceptable as everyday fashion. They also pioneered the concept of limited releases, retro collections, and sneaker collecting culture. Shoes became collectibles, investments, and status symbols all at once. By the 1990s, something unprecedented was happening. Basketball shoes were being worn by people who had never touched a basketball. Suburban kids, urban fashion leaders, celebrities, and international consumers were all buying Air Jordans not for performance, but for style. Nike had accidentally created sneaker collecting culture. People started buying multiple pairs, keeping them in boxes, treating them like art pieces. Lines formed around the block for new releases. Getting the latest Jordans became a cultural event. Players realized they weren't just athletes. They were walking billboards for their personal brands. Everything they wore, drove, and endorsed became part of their marketable identity. Social media would later amplify this to an insane degree. Let's talk about the numbers that prove how completely this changed basketball economics. In 1984, the average NBA salary was about $325,000. Today, it's over $8.5 million. Part of that increase comes from TV money and league growth, but a huge part comes from the fact that star players can now command massive endorsement deals that make them more valuable to teams. LeBron James makes more money from Nike than from playing basketball. His lifetime Nike deal is worth over $1 billion. Steph Curry's Under Armour deal restructured his entire relationship with Golden State. Kevin Durant's Nike money gives him financial freedom to make career decisions based on winning, not just salary. Even bench players now get signature shoe deals. Players who would have been completely anonymous in 1984 now have their own social media brands and endorsement portfolios. The landscape today is more complex than ever. Under Armour burst onto the scene by signing Steph Curry to a deal that Nike foolishly let slip away. Steph Curry's success made Under Armour a legitimate basketball brand overnight. Adidas finally figured out the game and started winning again. They signed James Harden, Damian Lillard, and Donovan Mitchell. They partnered with Kanye West on Yeezy, proving that they could create cultural phenomena too. Chinese brands like Anta and Li Ning are now major players, signing international stars and even some
American players who want to build brands in the massive Chinese market. But the biggest change is that players now think like CEOs. They don't just sign endorsement deals, they negotiate equity stakes, creative control, and long-term partnerships. They've learned from Jordan's example that the real money isn't in the contract, it's in building something that lasts beyond their playing career. College recruiting is now influenced by which shoe company sponsors which AAU programs and universities. High school prospects consider brand affiliations when choosing schools. International basketball growth is directly tied to marketing budgets from shoe companies. The NBA's global expansion happened because brands like Nike needed worldwide markets to sell their athlete-endorsed products. The entire structure of how athletes think about their careers has been revolutionized. They're not just trying to maximize their playing contracts, they're building multimedia empires that can generate income for decades after retirement. So who really won this war? Nike's market cap is over $200 billion today. Adidas is worth about $60 billion. Both companies are massively successful in ways that seemed impossible in 1984. But here's the truth. The real winner wasn't Nike or Adidas. It was every basketball player who came after Michael Jordan. Modern NBA players earn 10 times more than 1980 superstars, not just from salaries, but from the entire ecosystem of endorsements, personal brands, and business opportunities that Jordan's deal created. Basketball became a global entertainment product. Players became multimedia brands, and fans became consumers of lifestyle and identity, not just sports performance. One handshake in 1984 didn't just create Air Jordan, it created the blueprint for athlete empowerment that every sport has copied. Today's NFL, MLB, and soccer stars all benefit from the precedent that Jordan and Nike established. Think about it this way. Before 1985, athletes retired and faded from public consciousness. Today, Jordan makes more money from Nike annually than he ever made playing basketball. His brand is worth more now than when he was in his prime. That's the real revolution. Nike and Adidas didn't just change basketball, they proved that athletic greatness combined with smart business partnerships could create generational wealth and cultural influence that last forever. The next time you see a player's signature shoe, or watch an athlete leverage their platform for business ventures, or notice how sports and fashion have become inseparable, remember that it all traces back to a desperate company making an unprecedented bet on one rookie who almost signed somewhere else. The war between Nike and Adidas continues today, but they already achieved something bigger than market share. They transformed sports from games into the entertainment and lifestyle empire we know today.